Throughout this war in the Gulf, Joe Garagiola has been on the road taking his own informal poll of our nation's mood. This morning, Joe's deep in the heart of Texas, where we'd imagine the yellow ribbons are flying today. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Brian. Yes, a lot of yellow ribbons are flying, but the young people here, I'm sure, are probably a little more concerned today, at least, and tomorrow about winning one of those blue and red ribbons when their prize steer calves are paraded before the judges. We're at the 95th annual Fort Worth Livestock Show and home to the original indoor rodeo. We have some ranchers and parents, and we'll try to get a feel for it. Texans love rodeo almost as much as they love football. The Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo draws in Texans from every county across this big state. Still, attendance is down slightly this year by 6%. People seem to have a lot on their minds.
We begin a week of horrible terror for so many in the world.
They call this horse Hell's a Poppin'.
And when posters talk grassroots, these are the people they mean. People from places like Muleshoe, Sweetwater, and No Trees, and places where there are still heroes. Many of them ride broncs bareback.
Skulls High Dollar. Hit and scatter. Help them a little bit. Cheer them on as they're coming to you. They love to hear from you.
This rodeo even featured a television-style shoot-'em-up with the most famous hero of all.
I couldn't think of a better way, maybe to surprise the Persian Gulf, than to send this guy back in the 1990s.
So even with the excitement of the rodeo, people in the audience couldn't quite forget the television or the fact that we are a nation at war. They really didn't seem to want to.
I'm more interested now in the war than ever before. We got to get this madman out of Kuwait.
I think people are watching less of it than they were, but I don't think that they're any less interested.
I'm wondering what George Bush is waiting for. Bomb them. Eliminate the problem.
We have some ranchers, parents, and some exhibitors, and we'll get a feel for how they feel about the war in the Middle East. Wendell Kent, you heard the president's speech. What'd you think?
I thought it was a real good speech, Joe. I appreciate what he had to say. And
how do you feel about what's happening over there, especially after this morning?
Well, I'm sorry to hear we lost some boys, but we're dealing with a criminal and outlaw, and I think we ought to treat him as such. You know, we used to put a bounty on their head and let other people help us bring them in. I think that's what we should do now.
Misty Davis, how do you feel about what's happening? You have friends over there? I see you have a...
I have a cousin over there. He's an 82nd Airborne. He's a Ranger. But, you know, I think Saddam's saying he is a criminal and he needs to be stopped, and I think the U.S. is the one that's going to do it.
You're talking about Saddam Hussein, right?
Right.
Okay. Dan Taylor, you have kin over there. How do you feel?
I have a son-in-law over there, but I feel that it's something necessary, and we've got to go in and try to handle the situation.
You think we waited too long or not long enough?
I think we waited long enough. Well, you saw that sanctions weren't...
Sid Smith, quickly, how do you feel about what's happening?
I think it's great that we're stopping the Hussein to try to take over the world. And,
stop him, huh?
Stop him.
Well, good luck to you exhibitors, and thank you for stopping by, and we're going to have more. This is Today on NBC.
President Bush's State of the Union speech last night obviously had special significance for the 475,000 American troops in the Gulf. The speech was broadcast at 5 a.m. Saudi time, but there were servicemen and women up to watch it. NBC correspondent Rick Davis spent some of the early morning hours with the Air Force personnel at the 1st Tactical Fighter Wing Hospital.
Last year, our friends and allies...
Some of the words were lost to the constant roar of fighter aircraft from a nearby airbase. But the president's message was not. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, a commander-in-chief was addressing a nation at war. And in many ways, the president was directing his words here to servicemen and women who have put their lives on the line.
This we do know. Our cause is just, our cause is moral, our cause is right.
I know it sounds corny, but I wrote home to my family. I said, you know, we're here because we're a strong nation and we've got a responsibility to uphold freedom.
For the men and women of the 1st Tactical Fighter Wing Hospital, the mission is to save lives, not take them. These people will witness the suffering and heal the wounds of this conflict.
You were sworn to save lives. Is war ever just moral and right?
Yes, it is. And that's a conflict that I'm well aware of. But I'm also a physician in the military. And like any other person in the military, my job is to keep the military fighting. So I have no heartburn with that at all.
The Congress of the United States gave the men and women in the Gulf a standing ovation. That brought the tears of an Air Force nurse, Captain Diane Merritt.
Mostly when they applauded our being here, our reasons for being here, our real reasons for being here. And when he said, God bless the United States, it kind of hits home. You don't realize how much you can miss a place until you're not there anymore.
But for some here, part of the president's message rang hollow. They see economic and social problems at home being a worse threat than Saddam Hussein.
Are you worried about the economy back home?
Always been worried about it all my life. That's why I joined the Air Force. No war is just immoral. No one should have to fight each other.
And as the president finished his message, it was sunrise and time for another day of war. For today, Rick Davis, NBC News, Saudi Arabia.
And it may be a busy day at that hospital with the latest reports of casualties. We'll switch it back to Brian.
All right, Deborah, thanks very much. We want to get more on the fighting being reported in and around that port city of Khafji. Let's go to Saudi Arabia right now in Dhahran, where Rick Davis is standing by. Rick, what do you have for us?
Well, Brian, the official figures now, 10 Marines dead. No word is yet of how many other members of the Allied forces who are fighting alongside the Marines have died or have been injured. And there are unconfirmed reports, but reliable sources say that the fighting is still going on up there, and that perhaps 2 battalions, that would be 1,000 men and 80 military vehicles, have now crossed the border or are crossing the border. The fighting has been described as hellacious. It has been said that there's never been anything like it in this war. There are now the first casualties in this conflict on the ground, and it's 10 Marines dead. Brian?
Rick, are officials there still viewing it as a probe or a lure to get the U.S. to initiate a ground offensive?
It doesn't seem that that would be possible anymore. It seemed that last night's action may have been a probe to a preliminary ground assault. It appears that the Iraqis are now carrying the ground war to the Americans instead of waiting for that ground war to be carried to them.
Okay, Rick Davis in Dhahran, thank you. Let's go to the Pentagon. Katie Couric, what's new on your end?
Well, Bryant, we're actually not hearing those reports that there's continued ground fighting with that many men. I'm hearing here that there continues to be sporadic fighting in and around the port city of Khafji, but obviously in the fog of war, information trickles here to the Pentagon, sometimes rather slowly. They were able to penetrate 7 miles at Khafji, 21 miles west of the city of Khafji, and then 7 miles even further west. And that's because there has to be a buffer zone. U.S. and allied forces have set up defensive positions that far away because obviously they have to be away from the artillery range. That's why you've been hearing so much about those Marine shoot and scoot operations where they go up, fire, and then get the heck out of there.
So actually they can encroach a great deal into Saudi Arabia before encountering any allied troops, which in this case it seems is what they did.
That's right.
All right. Katie Couric at the Pentagon, thanks so very much. Our time is just about run out. We got time just for a goodbye up to New York to Deborah Norville and Faith Daniels, and to wish everyone a good day. For all the folks in New York and Washington, thanks so very much. Enjoy your Wednesday.